What's up? What's going on, everybody? This is Super Dave. Finally, back at you again with another episode of the PA Political Revolution podcast. And again, we have a special guest today to talk about this whole EDC fiasco, this debacle, this hostile takeover, I would like to say. And Mr. Doucet, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, Dave.
And
Great day.
just as you know, we have you over here to talk about everything that's going on with the EDC and what's going on, and try to make some sense of it so we can bring some good information to the citizens. And man, can you start off and tell me what's going on with the EDC? Why is the EDC director, attorney, and the VIP of the board resigned? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, there are certain things that if the citizens were to understand what's going on, then a lot of times when people are talking, they can understand whether it's right or wrong. Because what I always tell people is it's not about trying to tell somebody what to think. It's giving them information, and if they apply it, they will come out with the right decision and understand what is right and what is wrong. First of all, the EDC been operating, that I know, for at least 17 years with Mr. Baptiste as CEO.
Right.
And I said there have been times when council and the EDC have had meetings to discuss things for communication and stuff. And it was always one to just communicate with one another and be on the same page and understand it. But this particular council became questionable, and they say that it's, we're not trying to change, and then everything they say, they change. And it's not
Absolutely.
the council, it's only certain members of council. So what I tell the citizens is, let's find out what the EDC is supposed to be doing and how the EDC works. How the EDC is comprised and its board members and everything is found in our charter. And the charter will tell you, and the charter tells you how it is set up. It has a CEO, then it has a board. The board is comprised of the same number of members as council members. Each council member appoints one person to that board. So anytime any council member may have questions, they can talk with their appointee and communicate. But normally, when we appoint people to that board, we don't interact with them or try to give them instructions or tell them what to do, because they are part of a board and they should work with the other board members, the CEO, and the staff in order to carry out the mission of that corporation, not the mission of council members.
Okay.
And in this case, it all starts up with new council member coming on council and not understanding how the EDC operates and what it does. I served on both.
Right.
I served on EDC and I served on council. But I was on council first. So what I did, I started attending their meetings. So I got to understand the process that they use and the process that they go by. I understood their bylaws when I served, and I understand how they do business. But the council members who are questioning are saying that the EDC need to change, are council members who never even took the time to find out how they operate and what they do. They want the change to be where they have input into it. And then when you ask them, they can't tell you that because they have nothing. They say, well, we want to change how they do business. Okay, then what you want to change?
Right.
The
Right.
mayor made a comment at the last council meeting, and citizens could go back to that council meeting and review it. One of the comments he made was, oh, I agree. You know, you're doing good things and all, projects. I agree with it, but I just think council need to be involved. You need to bring them to council first, because some of these things I didn't know about.
Okay, let's go ahead and stop right there. Let's go ahead and kind of take a minute to go ahead and go ahead and expound a little bit on that point, right? Mr. Barty had said, the mayor said that he had wanted to change how the way the business is being operated. Can you explain on what, on how the business has been operating and what you think he wants to change, or what he's said in some of those media outlets that he thinks he wants to have changed?
Well, you see, that's the part that he's letting the citizens know, right?
Right.
That I don't know what the EDC does. I just want them to do what we want them to do.
Right.
And it's in the statement when he says, you know, we're glad for people serving, but we want them to do business differently. Well, he just told the citizens that, one, the council is not supposed to govern the EDC. That's why we appoint people on that board. That
right.
board is what governs the EDC. Now, if council has any questions on the way they're doing business, council member or council can put it on the agenda. They can have the CEO come before them and they can express their concerns or what they feel they need to take a look at, and which the EDC will gladly do it. Or they can turn around and say, we would like a joint meeting with them so we could talk about how they operate and what we expect.
Okay.
But the mayor has taken the thing where he believes council can determine who does business with the EDC, who doesn't, and that they should know. And David, I want to make one thing clear.
Yes, sir.
The EDC cannot do a project, a program. Everything they do, they submit to the council in what they call a letter of intent. That letter of intent is presented to the council in the executive sessions by the city attorney, at which time it talks about all the incentives that this company is asking, what they're looking at giving them, and if jobs are involved, how many jobs, how many will go to Port Arthur residents, how they will follow up, how they will do it. All of this is presented to council. So if council has any questions in that session, they have someone that they could call in and they can answer the question. But once it's presented, that letter of intent to council, it then goes back where either council say, yes, go ahead with it or not.
Okay, so the council knows everything in full what's going on with the EDC, right?
The council knows that project from then on, because council told them to proceed. That's what it is.
Right.
The letter of intent gives them the permission from council to proceed, because we understand what you're finna do, and we have no objections. So now the EDC now start doing paperwork. They start gathering information. They start doing financial check and all this stuff. They get everything together to do a contract. Once the contract is done, then it goes back to the council now, not as a letter of intent, but it goes back as a contract. And all of the details that they presented is now in the contract. So council now has to approve the contract. So at that time, council vote to either approve or disapprove. It's kind of funny if they try to vote to disapprove it, because
right.
you already gave them permission to proceed.
Right. Right.
Now, let's say you're sleeping during the letter of intent process.
Right.
Okay, let's say that you're sleeping when they come before you in the resolution. The fact of the matter is, you got to vote. And once you vote, then that's what it's about. So any money that the EDC spends, citizens got to understand, any money that the EDC spends and who they spend it on, that council knows, because that council approved it. They approved it. So if they had a problem with what they were spending the money on, all they do was disapprove it.
Right, right. And I got a question. What do you think is the reason why a couple of people that have no education on economic development within cities wants to go in and change a tried and true process and try to and try to control Mr. Baptiste.
Well, I go back to when I was on council. The mayor would talk to individuals, and then he would go with the individuals to the EDC, introduce to Mr. Baptiste, for Mr. Baptiste to get on board with them. So, but Mr. Baptiste would go through the process, okay, the process. And in the process, they had to go through, but they thinking that this is something that, oh yeah, we're gonna do it. Well, the mayor found out it didn't work that way.
Right.
Now, the mayor can say what he wants. I know for a fact the mayor was getting too involved with EDC as a member of council.
Right.
Because during my tenure, I had discussed that with the mayor in an executive session when he sent a letter to the governor of Texas using a city letterhead, asking the governor to support this group out of Houston, and that he was in full support of it.
Wow. And also, could you tell me why is that wrong with this type of
It's
city
wrong.
government that we have?
It's wrong in this form of government because, first of all, the mayor cannot use any letter of correspondence with the city letterhead unless one, council has been informed of this particular correspondence and council has approved. Not only that, but the city attorney has also reviewed it for correctness and legality, okay? So in our form of government, if the mayor chose to discuss any type business wanting to come to Port Arthur, he must do it in a regular council meeting with all council members getting the information and being afforded the opportunity to vote whether this council as a whole gonna support or not support. So the mayor, after 2.5 years, still doesn't understand this form of government.
Right.
As the mayor, you don't get to make decisions. You are one vote and one voice. However, there are certain additional duties he has as a mayor, like representing the city, presiding over the meetings.
Right.
Those are things that the mayor does and is indicated in the charter. But the mayor doesn't have the authority like a Sylvester Turner.
Right, absolutely.
And that's what our mayor thinks. That's why this trip to Washington was $6,000 because he thinks if I want to rent a car, I get a rent a car, go valet park it for a week, and then go back to no. You don't do that. That's not this form of government. You hear him make the comment, my council.
Okay, and also go ahead.
You should know that you do not have an administration. You do not have a council. You are part of the council. You are our mayor. You represent the city, but you don't run the city. We hire a city manager to run the city. In his response to the EDC in the paper, he mentioned the fact that, we're not firing nobody. I'm not. No council member can fire anybody at the EDC.
Right.
What the council can do, the council as a whole can vote to remove an individual board member, or the council can vote to replace all of their members. But the fact of the matter is, you still got to put other members back on the board. You got to appoint somebody else because the charter says the board will decide the EDC, set policy and procedure, not the council. But the council should never say we don't know what they're doing because everything they do is approved by you. And before they even do it, they give you a letter of intent.
Absolutely.
Well, you notice that all of the talk went from Councilman Frank just getting on council,
right,
and he started talking about changing the EDC from a type A to type B.
I remember that.
Well, Why didn't you go to the EDC, attend meetings, find out what they do and what they have done for the city? And then if you find that's a problem, now you bring it back to the council and you make the recommendation. And when you make the recommendation, let the people know why we could be better off with a B instead of an A. The mayor mentioned it in what this response he gave in the paper. He said a type B will allow council to serve on the EDC, which in turn, they will have a say. Well, guess what? Now you're talking about instead of going through this process that the EDC had to ensure that the people that gets money have either collateral or they have financial background, they got a good credit rating, and they got capacity to at least have an opportunity to achieve. He's talking about fixing it so that now you have council members. So the question to everybody is, if you have 3 council members on a board of 7 people, who do you think the citizens gonna listen to out of just respect?
Right.
The council members. If you go to a type B, then you're gonna have people giving money to businesses without having like the EDC has in place, NDC, which is a company. They do all the financial background for all their applicants to ensure that they are financially sound and they have a good credit rating. So the EDC protects its money.
Right.
But if you go with a type B, then they making decisions. See, so
and I also talk about the voting, the voters losing their right to vote on certain topics. No, say go ahead and speak about also the voters losing the right to vote on if you change it from a class A to B, please.
Right. With a type A also can address type B issues in the city. Now, the type A is mostly geared toward industrial, new business and expansion of business, job training, and employment. However, this EDC has consistently over the last 10 years, and I say that with the citizens, not listening to what Doucet said, but check the information.
Right.
The EDC has consistently taken at least $1 million, and given to the city each year. And that money has always been directed to streets. Some of the money have been directed in some years for building affordable homes, and then other monies have been centered around parks. The only money been put in parks in this city in the last 10, 15 years has come mostly from the EDC. So the EDC, when they decide that, okay, we got a lot of money in our reserve, let's help the citizens of the city. So what they normally do, they normally look at what citizens are complaining about. If it's streets, then what they do, they ask council to put on the ballot a proposition allowing them to give $1 million into streets for 3 years. Well, for 1 year, and then renewable for 2 times, which gives you 3 years. That's what they done. So now the voters get the chance to say, yes, let's put that money in the streets. Okay? Then when that expires, they go back to ask the voters because the voters hollering about housing. So they wanted to put money in housing. The next time when that ran out, they went back, asked the voters to put money back in the parks again. They done parks twice. So each time they have done a type B type thing, it hasn't been with business, it's been for people.
Right.
And it went to the people, what the people benefited, what the people are talking about they need. That's what it went toward. And the people told them, okay. But see, these council members want to try to get involved where they got some say in who gets the money and where the money goes.
Right, absolutely.
So when you start talking about a type B, now they can afford to give their buddies or somebody they know personally an incentive.
Right.
So now you start getting into politics. If you notice in the last 17 years, you've never had this type of conflict with EDC and council. I don't
Absolutely,
care.
yeah, I don't remember that.
Never. Because council members have always understood how the EDC works. And we don't get involved. Now, we have in past called for joint conferences. We have discussed things that we thought we needed to discuss, but we never accused the EDC of not doing things for citizens in this city. We never accused the EDC of mismanaging money. So we understood our part and how this works. But these individuals, they don't want to talk. Listen to what the mayor said in his response. He said, there are preliminary discussion right now among council on changing it, possibly changing it from an A to a B. Well, first of all, citizens need to understand if the council is discussing it right now, every councilman that is in the discussion with this is committing a misdemeanor, is violating the Open Meeting Act. They're discussing city business among themselves when it should be discussed in an open meeting. They cannot talk about this even in a closed meeting.
Okay, I just want to go ahead and focus on that. So it is the law of the land, right, for the city council to discuss city business in an open meeting so the citizens can be able to review it, listen to it, and kind of be a part of it, so to speak. Go ahead.
And that's right. That is why with an open meeting, citizens may understand, if it's an item on the agenda in an open meeting, after the council get through discussing it, if they're going to vote on it prior to a vote, citizens has the right to ask to speak on that item. And we have a process in which citizens can speak on the item. So at that time, you could go up and talk. So when you start talking about certain things, you can't talk about it in closed door. The state only allows for you to talk about certain things behind closed doors. You're talking about the sale or lease of property, not just the sale or lease of, but it has to be whereby if it's public, it can hurt the city in this negotiation if a third party may come into it, okay? So that's pretty much. And also, if you're gonna talk about an individual personnel matter, personnel discipline, action and stuff like that, you talk about it in closed session for an individual. If that person says, no, I want it in open session, then you have to do that in open session. So the state tells them exactly what you can discuss behind closed doors, and that is to bring transparency to government. So if the mayor makes this comment that we are in preliminary discussions about it, right then he's basically telling the citizen, we violating the Open Meeting Act and a misdemeanor because we're talking about this and we ain't talking about it in public.
Right.
Because if he talks about it in public, no, if the council discuss it in public, it has to be on agenda. So any citizen see it, they could go there and they could talk about it too.
Right.
But the state said you cannot discuss city business the way he says. Now, I'm going by what the mayor wrote.
Right.
But
go
ahead.
So when the mayor says he's doing this to have transparency, actually all of this, not speaking in council about the changes, during council, also not having the voters being involved or from changing, like wanting to change the EDC from a type A to type B, that's actually going to reduce the transparency. Do you think so?
Well, that's the whole purpose of it. But the thing about it is, the comments the mayor making in response is basically telling the citizens that is probably why the director and members are resigning.
Right.
Are retiring. Because they're trying to take over and run the EDC.
Right.
Because if they were going to do this the proper way, it will be in a form of putting it on an agenda, bringing it up in a regular meeting, and any citizen who sees it can go there and they have the right to respond to it. But if you doing this like he says, it's illegal, and you're trying to say things. Now, you say you want to change the way they do business. What part of doing business you want to change?
Right.
We as citizens have the right to know. Above all, I think the EDC board and the people over there need to know. And I think all council members need to be in on the discussion so that citizens can see which council members up there believe that the EDC should change.
And it's funny that now, since you mentioned it, none of the board members, none of the council members that served on the EDC board said that they need to change that I can recall, right? The only ones that's saying is the ones that never been on the board. Is that correct?
Well, the only person that's talking about changing the EDC is people who haven't served. And now but as I gave an example, the mayor came on bringing people over there. He thought, because I guess he bring them over there, that's give them the upper edge. But when we found out, they have a process for people getting money. And the people you bringing, they don't qualify. Then the mayor take it upon himself to write a letter to the governor's office, asking the governor to approve somebody getting a state grant along with the to come and get in our business park because he supported. Now, he should have known he should never try to bring any business or anything in here without council approval because he don't have the authority, neither the responsibility.
Now,
but yet,
now it's my.
Go ahead.
Now, I want to stop on that and hold and put that point right. It's my opinion, right? It's my opinion that Mayor Bartee has a history of this, right? He has a history of getting drunken with power. And it's kind of disturbing. A lot of the citizens thought that time that he's learned from some of the things he's done in the past. We can also see that when he was the JP, that he also had some issues where he thought that he was over the court and he tried to bully people. Before that, some people said when he was at the church that he had some issues over there. And now we kind of seeing like the same repetitive process with him wanting to bully Mr. Floyd Baptiste. I remember that one of the council meetings when Mr. Floyd was over there, he told Mr. Floyd that he didn't want to hear nothing out of his mouth, something to that effect. I put it up on the internet. It seemed that we have a mayor that has kind of gone rogue, kind of lost his mind with drunken with power. I mean, if this keeps up, do you kind of think that he could possibly end up violating laws and getting into some more trouble as the mayor?
Well, I could put it this way. I served with the mayor, and during the time I served with the mayor, I initially went to the mayor's office after meetings, and I discussed a lot of things with the mayor to try to get him to be aware of certain things and how things are done, and not in the fashion of me trying to tell the mayor how to operate, but letting the mayor know that this is written and this is how we conduct business, and helping him. And after a while, I got to the point where he was very appreciative of the information I gave him, but as I observed, he continued to do what he wanted to do, which when you say about his previous positions in the city, representing and serving people, I too took the approach that when the mayor says that I've learned, I've changed, I've been given another opportunity. I'm the type person that I don't try to hold people mistakes in the past against them, because a lot of people do learn and change. But I can tell you that the mayor's actions and what mayor says is solely in conjunction with when he was a justice of the peace, and obviously the way he decided to be the pastor in the church, and that's the reason he was removed from the bench and he was taken out of the pastorship in the church. And if people start looking at what is written and how this city is supposed to operate and what the mayor's duties and responsibilities actually are. And they will find out that, yes, he's in the same mode. And then the citizens must ask themselves. He's talking about changing the EDC. I think the question citizens need to strongly ask, after what the EDC has done for this city in the last 17 years,
Right.
and we have a mayor that wants to change it to put it under control of council when it never was an issue before, and you know what he has done in previous. Now you get to thinking and just use the facts. The facts speaks for themselves. Don't take my word, nobody. Just look at the facts and you'll find out it's exactly. The mayor's major responsibility in this city is really conducting the council meetings, because that's where we take care of city business. But
Right.
after almost 2.5 years, the mayor still can't conduct a meeting in accordance with parliamentary procedures and how it should be conducted,
Right.
because he believes he can do it any way he chooses.
Right.
But it's the state of Texas governs those meetings, and they tell you how they should be conducted. And the reason they tell you, because they want it to be transparent, and they want it to be where citizens get the opportunity to provide input and know what's going on. And just like citizens got to respect council, the mayor has to do that. The mayor has to understand presiding over a meeting doesn't give you the authority to run it the way you choose.
And absolutely, I want to interject.
And if he ran it the way it's supposed to be ran, the meetings will be sharp, because normally the person that presides over meetings, what they do is, and it states in Robert Rules on, normally what you want to do, you want to let the board, everybody talk before you talk. Now the reason it's that way, because they don't want the mayor to speak and influence other members.
Right.
So it's customary that whoever presiding let everybody speak, and they speak last. But you do not speak after somebody speaks because you didn't agree with what they speak. If you want to debate a thing, you're supposed to relinquish your seat. And that tells you that you do make decisions. If I give you an example, we had a recess for a reception 2 meetings ago. Well, the mayor said we're going to take a recess. That's not the way it's done. Once the agenda is posted, you must follow the agenda. So if they were going to take a recess, it wasn't on the agenda. It should have been put to the vote of the council. And the majority of council says yes, then you take the break.
Right.
But if the council says no, you got to continue, because the agenda is posted. The citizens are there and they have a copy of the agenda. You're supposed to proceed along the agenda. If you want to bring an item up before it's time listed on the agenda, the proper way is always says, we would like to bring this item up, and you explain why, so everyone will know. And then a motion is made, is second. So basically what I'm saying, the mayor wants to be mayor, but the mayor don't want to learn the proper way to do his duties.
Absolutely.
Because he thinks, I'm the mayor, I get to do this, or I get to say that.
Absolutely.
And he's done a lot of things that he don't have the authority to do. And I think the EDC issue is an issue he tried to address when I was on council
Right.
with people. And we pretty much would let the mayor know. If you notice, when we were on council, there was a lot of votes whereby the mayor would bring items and we'll vote on it, and all council members will vote against it because we didn't think it's a good idea. And the mayor would be the only one vote opposite of us.
Right.
It was like 1 and 6, and you've seen that on several occasions. And I believe that that was where the mayor's actually showing that I'm not going to work with you all. This is what I wanted, so I'm not voting. But citizens should be able to pick up on these things and understand what is happening and be able to understand. Is this mayor for a city, for our city and us, or is this mayor about himself?
Absolutely.
Okay, you can't tell me that you know how the city run when you're trying to tell people what you want. That's just like I consider a new council member bringing an item before council to change something, but you haven't done your due diligence to do the homework.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
can't believe it.
And
So that tells me it's not about the city and its city operations. It's more about you trying to get things done that you want to do personally.
And absolutely, let me interject in right there. Now, I, among other people, believe that Mr. Boyd had the personality to be the best mayor. He could have been the best mayor possible because of his, open personality, right? But it seems like this quest for power, this hunger, this, I want to do things my way. I want to change things my way. Is putting the city at danger, right? And it's putting the EDC at danger. Particularly, my thing is with the training. Now, one thing I like from the EDC is they have a lot of CDL training, a lot of job training, and I believe economics is one of the main things the Economic Development Center should be doing, right? And when Board T wants to go over there and strong arm, and Frank wants to go ahead and strong arm, never being a part of the board, really don't even know how the board operates, would not putting those programs in danger. Go ahead and speak on that for me, please.
Well, you see, that's exactly, if citizens do the homework, they're going to come up with the same conclusion. Okay, and I agree with you. I agree. Mayor Botti could have been a good mayor, but he would have to understand this form of government. He would understand that I am the mayor. I have additional duties, like representing the city, being a spokesperson for the city. So when you're speaking about the city and representing the city. And when you do so, you don't do it and say things that you think or how you feel. You got to be very careful. And he has shown the ability to say what he thinks or what he said, but not understanding. When you say that, you actually saying the council agreed because you speak for the city.
Right.
You can't be yourself and be mayor.
Yeah.
You have to be able to perform duties. And there's a difference between duties. And I think that's the problem that I see with how things are being done.
Have professionalism.
I think that is the root cause of what had transpired with the EDC. I feel that Mr. Baptiste should not have put in a resignation. I think Mr. Baptiste should have went before the council and said what he needed to say with, we're doing it. And the thing that I'm really disappointed in is when council members say they want to change the way they do business. Just tell me how, because I'm going to tell you, changes are not always bad, okay? We need changes sometimes to better things.
Right.
So to say that the EDC does not need to change is not a bad thing. But if they need to change, tell me what they need to change.
Right. And to piggyback on that point, I'm kind of upset that we have 3 council members that's been a part of the EDC, and they have been pretty much quiet on this issue. I don't even think the news, the TV stations have asked them anything on it. So you would think.
I think I can help you with that one, being a former council member. You have to understand that council members don't police individuals. We police the council as itself. Because what we're supposed to do is make sure that decisions we make are in accordance with city policies, procedures, ordinance codes, state and federal laws, because we take an oath to do that. So a lot of time when you have a council member that is talking offline, like we say in left field, you probably won't comment on it. What citizens have to be concerned about is if this item or this discussion becomes a vote, how they vote.
Well, they don't have to. I'm not asking to speak on the actual council member, But
No,
the
no,
actual the EDC, is like a board. That's what I'm kind of talking about. Not as far as like
yeah,
a party's talking about this. Talking about the actual the subject they're talking about changing the EDC. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah. But see, they keep saying it, but they have not said. They have not said what they want to change.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the thing citizens got to be aware of, all of these actions you're doing. That's what created the frustration with the CEO after 17 years. He just don't want to deal with it no more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or
Absolutely. It's a hostile
or you
work
get
environment.
or you see whereby a board member who has served for a long period of time see board members that pushing the agenda of a few council members. Now, I haven't lost faith in this council as a majority during this whole thing because it really hasn't been anything brought to them where they had to vote. Because I truly believe in my hearts of heart that not every council member even want to take this up and consider changing, or they know they don't need to change. So if this came to a vote, I would be shocked if 4 members of that council said, yeah, we need to change the EDC. Right now, it's only the council members who are interested in trying to gain some type of authority over that EDC that keep talking and pushing this issue. And when they are asked by people, what do you want to change? They can't tell you specifically. When the mayor tells the EDC board that, well, I think it's a good project, but I'd just like to know, I think y'all need to inform council. Council need to know in advance. Well, guess what?
They know in advance.
The process is you get letter of intent that tells you that.
Right.
So why are you saying you don't know? If you don't know, that's your fault because it came before you.
Right.
So why are you telling citizens? It makes citizens think that the EDC is doing things and then not telling the council in advance. That's not the way it works. The way this system is in place, they do a letter of intent. Now, ask the mayor about the letter of intent. He probably, well, what is it? We've been doing it for the longest, but he probably don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what the letter of intent is. Before they get into it, they want to know from us, do we think it's a good project or program? Do we agree? And when we say proceed, it's telling them, go and do everything you need to do, then bring it back to us for our approval. So they know everything the EDC does. The problem they having is they can't control it, and they don't have a say until it comes to them.
Right.
They want to have a say
Through the process.
on what comes to council, because if you look at the charter and the way the EDC was established and stuff, it's like ordinances in planning and zoning. The council may want to look at a zoning ordinance as bad and change it, but guess what? It has to come to the council from the planning and zoning commission. The council can't take up the item on zoning unless it comes first from the planning and zoning committee to council. And that's the way the state establishes it. Well, the EDC is established that way. They look at things, they bring it to that board. That board say, yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, they approve it. Now, the city council get a letter of intent. Once they get a letter of intent, the council says, no, we ain't for it. Or the council say, yeah, go ahead and proceed. We think it's good. But the next time it comes, it tells you all of the money involved, the contract and everything. So now you should approve it because you already told them to go ahead.
Right.
So
right.
how can you not know what they're doing?
And also,
why would you change a system that has been working?
And also, if you have
why
questions,
would you say something is wrong, but you can't tell me exactly what's wrong?
And also, if a council member, has questions on that with the letter of intent, he can ask questions, right? Is the EDC director or is a representative up there to answer questions?
Oh, let me tell you something. And that's something that I have a problem with, how council members take up things because actually, all this talking about one another, you don't need to do that. If you have a concern, you put it on the agenda. That's how councilmen take care of business when it's not a council or something coming to them. A councilman can put this item on the agenda like Councilman Frank did with the type A, type B. The problem with that was he didn't do no homework.
Right.
It was just his ideas and his feelings. Okay. And council members should understand, if you want to discuss things, you got to prepare for discussion. You put it on there. Now the citizens gonna know what you're gonna be talking about. So everybody get to see not only what you have to say, but they get to hear or see any actions. Because if actions are taken, that's a vote. So guess what? We get to see how the other council members vote. Are they gonna vote in the best interest of the city and the city, or are they gonna vote because they supporting their peers?
Right, right.
See, because there are certain things that citizens may not realize. The council doesn't decide what they want. You probably heard the attorney or some staff gave the council advice, and then the last thing he says, however, council can do as it choose. No. Council must follow the policies, procedures, code, ordinance, state and federal law. We swear that we're going to do that. So we don't get the chance to do what we want. So the key, David, is no matter if it's council members, mayor, city manager, staff, this city should run the same way no matter who is in charge, because it's written how you do it.
Right, right, right.
The only time things start getting screwed up is when people start doing what they want to do,
right,
as opposed to what written how you do it. The mayor failed to understand. You should have been spending more time finding out how this city run, what the ordinance and codes and stuff are, as opposed to we make decisions on how it runs. You see, that's when things get bad. Things get bad when people try to change how things are supposed to operate.
Right. Let me go ahead.
Every time people do that, you get chaos.
Let me kind of go ahead and go sidestep over to a little different subject. Well, same thing, but a little different area of this EDC debacle. Now,
okay.
I've had a lot of hits last night on my social media, right? Because a lot of people were concerned about Pastor Frank's appointment of Mr. Roosevelt Petrie, right? Mr. Roosevelt Petrie is well, you already know, you know it better than me. For some of the people that don't know, I was a local businessman over here in Port Arthur, well, that has a business over here in Port Arthur, and is owner of GP Industries. Now, a lot of people have some questions on, it's been brought up, to my attention that Mr. Petrie may not live in Port Arthur, right? He may has a home in the greater Houston area. He's probably using the business address to go ahead and get on the EDC board, right? So a lot of people have questions is, why is Mr. Petrie on the board? And if you look at one of the last meetings, he's given Mr. Baptiste a lot of problems, right? He's given him a lot of hell on the board, and some people say that it may be some kind of issue that he's maybe trying to get some support from the EDC for his business, his new business with Spindle Top Concrete. Can you kind of talk a little bit about Mr. Petrie being on the board and what's going on with him and why it's even a storm?
I tell you right now, I've heard it. I've had discussion with council members who talked to me about it, and citizens who talked to me about it. And above all, I've talked to Mr. Petrie, but rather than my opinion, what I basically did was I started checking into the facts and stuff. And what I found to be where something I say can be supported is there are ways to identify whether a person is a resident. Now, I want to first let citizens know what I found. A person can own a home in Houston, and they can have a home in Port Arthur. So actually, that person has two residents now.
Right.
Okay, they got two residents, cut and dry.
Right.
A home here, a home in Houston. So your resident is in both places, and it ain't depending on how many days you spend in either one. Now, the city, when they appoint people to a board or something that requires residents, what they normally use to identify that is the driver's license.
Right.
Okay, so Mr. Peter's driver's license had a place on 8th in Austin whereby it was a business. Okay, and I've talked with Councilman Frank about it. He was telling me that he checked with legal authorities and it's not a business. He's not conducting business out there. Well, we don't have to debate by that. Citizens can find out whether it's a business or a resident. You simply go to the taxes.
Right.
Because it's registered at the county either as a business or a residence.
Right.
Okay, so, it's not nothing people should be debating.
Yeah, right.
Or trying to decide. And if you go and see how it is taxed and how it is listed, you'll find out it's listed as a business. I don't care if you got bed, showers,
Right.
table, kitchen, or what. When it got put on the tax roll, it was done by the owner who described what this was.
Right.
Okay. So if he put it on it as a resident, then guess what? It's listed as a residence. Right. So if you check that, then you'll find out whether it's a resident or not. Now, one of the things the city secretary said is that, well, the state of Texas Department of Public Safety Driver's License Division states no resident of Texas, no resident in the state of Texas can use a business address on your driver's license.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Okay, so now citizens can ask, they'll find that's the facts. If citizens go to the tax, find out how that property is listed, they'll know whether it's a resident or a business.
Now,
okay.
Now, I had a lot of citizens upset on it. Is there anything that we can do about that? I mean,
let me tell you,
okay.
It's something that should be addressed with the council. And if the council and anyone wants to do what's right, all they need to do, since Mr. Peters' residence has been brought into question, you just check these places and get your documentation. The documentation will say whether he's a resident or not.
Right.
See, now, a voter registration is not really a way of verifying,
right.
Because actually you can list a business address on a voter registration.
Right.
You see, you can list that, but not on your driver's license in the state of Texas, right? You're supposed to have your resident on it, not a business. So I'm saying if this got to be resolved, the proper way to resolving it is not listen to this personal opinion. Don't listen to what Doucet think, what Jones, what Councilman Franks. The proper way to do it, do the homework. See, that's the problem with people not doing that. If you do your job, everything is written. So it's not a debate whether it's simple. If that's the resident, that's how it's listed. It's listed that way. So it's simple. If you're going to take a driver license and it has a place listed, then you just go and confirm whether is that place a resident or a business. Guess what? When the owner filed it with the county, the owner filed it as a resident or a business. Now, if you're looking at it and you see anything that's been changed with it during the time frame in which this question came up, Now you know that it's not, because it's done now to circumvent the system. So what I'm saying is, people don't have to go back and forward or use their opinion. Just go and get the information. Everything we do is written.
Right.
You know, people may laugh and talk about me because I'm a black and white guy. Yes, I am.
Oh yeah,
Because
you have
when I
to be.
do that, I take out my personal feelings and I don't do on what I think or how I feel.
Well, yeah,
But if somebody go through those steps I just talked about, right, they will come to a clear conclusion whether he's a resident or not, and it won't be debated with that person.
Hey, and absolutely, you're right. And I do believe you have to be a black and white person when you're in local government, at least, because you're dealing with ordinance, you're dealing with laws, just like you have in Beaumont. You have a couple of black and white people, Mike Getz, and I think Alderman Samuels. Both of those are attorneys, and anybody else I may have forgotten Beaumont. So you have a lot of black and white people that deal with legal. You want to know the precise meaning of the way things that what the law is supposed to mean. So yeah, I absolutely understand that, and you have to go ahead and follow by that. And but go ahead.
One more last thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you know, the mayor made this comments about some people are against changes or can't accept changes. You know, right. maybe he looking at it wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a fact that he can't accept the way things are written and the way things are run. So it may not be the problem who are not accepting change. The problem may be you not being able to adjust to how it is.
Absolutely.
You see, and that's something that if people look at what's written, they're going to find out who's right, who's wrong, because the city is supposed to be run in accordance with policies, procedures, code, and ordinance, state and federal laws. And the reason someone has taken the time to write all this to make sure that it runs correctly. But when people start disregarding that,
right,
and doing what they choose, is when things start going haywire. And like I said, through all of this, if the mayor or Councilman Frank would have said specifically what needed to be changed and why we should do this, I would have understood. Now, although I may not have agreed with it, I would have at least respected their right, and what they were saying and doing was okay. But when you can't be specific and all you talking about doing something, you can't convince me that it's not the way you want or is your agenda. And that's when things go awry. That's when we start having issues, because the city is written to run. That EDC is a corporation, the board, and it's the reason that we as councilmen appoint citizens to that board. It's to keep the politics out of it.
Absolutely.
It's to keep the politics out of it. They want to put a type B so they could put council members on it. Now you won't bring politics in. And besides, what's the old saying? If it ain't broke, why you want to try to fix it?
There you go. And that's the point I want to get citizens to understand. If you have people not qualified trying this hard to change something, you have to see there may be an underlying ulterior motive to this. You know what I mean? Because you have 3 people on the board that's been with the EDC. They haven't made any kind of changes for it. The board CEO, Mr. Baptiste, has been over there, would you say, 17 years. He has not expressed some type of change. But you got rogue mayor and a rogue pastor, right? Want to go ahead and try to change this process. Citizens, you have to look at it and say, hey, who's wrong? Who's most likely wrong? The professionals that served on this, or you got some rogue nuts?
Well, you know, to David, in case people don't know, Mr. Baptiste and I are personal friends, okay?
Right.
However, Mr. Baptiste tendered his resignation, right?
Right.
So I don't want to get into him staying or going, okay?
Yeah.
Nobody asked for anything. However, I have a concern when a person like Mr. Sheriff John Sheriff, decide to resign because of what he see going on when he was on there prior to these people coming in.
Right.
Okay, so, and you talk about a guy that was a prominent businessman here in this community,
Right.
who's been on the board, right?
Yeah.
And when he says it's BS going on, I don't want to be part of it. It's time for citizens to open their eyes.
Heck, and also the attorney.
We're losing somebody who has served and served admirably, that see this going on and saying, this never existed before. Hey, wait a minute, hold on. I don't have to put up with this. I'm out of here. You guys don't want to do right? I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So there are indicators here that people should look hard at. And like I said, if you can't tell me specifically, hey, and when you start trying to knock everything they do, but you don't even know how they do it.
Yeah.
You the problem. And if this type of actions have been taken, I don't think the citizens should really be too concerned with changing the EDC, because when the mayor talk about them wanting to change it and they're discussing the changes, once again, he don't know how the system works. It don't matter if every member of council say change it. Unless the citizen says change it, it ain't changing.
That's what you're supposed to be serving.
So you see, citizens have to understand. So for them to be talking about changing and all this without going to the citizens and let the citizens decide, it tells you right then they don't have the citizens' interest in mind. It's their personal, because they're doing it in a fashion like they got the control as opposed to citizens.
Right. Yeah.
So citizens got to ask themselves, should we even be entertaining someone telling us to change our EDC has been very successful over the last 15, 17 years? Or is it time for us to start looking at, should we change them from council?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You are absolutely right about that, sir.
I think citizens need to understand, just like we need to bring the question to you whether to change it or not. The council don't have to bring to you to remove council members. That's your choice.
Yeah, there you go.
You don't need permission to remove them. And they need to start being held accountable. If you say something, you better show us what you're talking about. And if you tell us that you are discussing something that you did not discuss in open so we can hear, maybe we need to replace you. Because the law says you can't do it. So why are you doing it?
Yeah.
If it's all good, and if you mean well, why are you not doing it the right way?
Absolutely right. And you're trying to run it down everybody's throat.
You see, and David, all this stuff is all written. We don't have to listen to somebody tell us. We just have to now get out of somebody telling us something that is totally, completely wrong. Let's take a look and do a little fact finding, and we'll know whether it's wrong or right. We don't need somebody else to come and tell us, oh, that's wrong what they're doing. No. If it's wrong, what are they doing that's wrong? Well, you got to know the process before you say it's wrong. And that's the same thing they're doing with the EDC. They still don't know. And the killing part about it, they want to control the EDC right now. And I go ask either one of them or any of them, what are the 4 major drainage projects we have right now with over $60 million that we got to get done?
Right.
Name me the 4. Or you tell them, how does the street program actually work? Ask them that. See, those are things that they should know. But I bet they can't answer it. Now, if they hear your podcast, they're probably going to start going and reading and try to understand.
Right.
But if you ask them before you do the podcast, that's what they should be concerned with. That's what they were elected to do. They wasn't elected to run that EDC.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They was elected to serve citizens in this city. So why are you trying to do that? You tell me, how does the street program work that you have in place, and where are we with it? You tell me, what are the 4 major drainage project we got that's supposed to help us in the event of hurricane or flood come here. That's what they're supposed to know. That's what we elect them to do. Guess what? Unless they hear this and start going to read, I bet you they can't answer.
Yeah.
But that's what they're elected. So citizens need to understand it's not about liking or disliking somebody. It's about if this is right, I support it. If it's wrong, I'm not going along with it. And that's to include my friend.
Yeah.
You could be my friend, but I wouldn't do nothing for you that I'm not going to do for the other. My family could say that. And we all need to do that. We need to stop worrying about things being our way. Let's look at the way it's supposed to be, how it's written that it be. And guess what? We hold people accountable to do it that way.
Yeah.
Trying to get money, extra travel and all this stuff. We don't do that if we serving people.
Right. Absolutely.
If you don't have money, you shouldn't even be on council. What you want? Milk the citizens? You want perks? Go pick up aluminum cans.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I hear you.
Citizens need to start looking. You don't know how a person going to serve you when you elect them. But you got to be a stone idiot if you're not keeping up with what they're doing.
Yeah. And I do appreciate all that. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into some different topics over here a little bit. And man, you did a great presentation. Man, if there's anything else, I'm gonna let you have the last word on this, but I'm gonna go ahead and go into some other topics that kind of on my opinions and whatnot, and a little bit more controversial. I'm gonna go a different way heavy on that. I don't need you on that. I'm gonna have to do on my own thing.
Well, the thing about it is, Dave, I am, I don't want to try to tell people how I think.
Oh, yeah.
Or what I think. I want people to be able to know where information is found.
Right.
And how things are written that we do things. And when I say something, I don't care about how you feel.
Right.
I could tell you where to go and you will read it. And I think that's what leaders owe citizens. To tell them what is right and written, not what they want to hear, or not trying to please. Be honest, truthful, and really care to do the right thing. And hopefully, people will take a look at the information I put out there. They check on it. They will decide for themselves on what it is. And I'm quite sure the majority will come up with the same ideas and thought many of us have, okay? But we don't have to try to tell somebody we are right.
Yep.
They should find out for themselves. That's all I got, Big D.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I'm going to go ahead and finish out the show with a couple other topics. And I'm going to give my opinion on it because, some people ask what I think on certain things.
You know what?
But they always have the freedom to think what they want to
guess
think.
What?
Like it or don't like it.
But see, that's good, okay? Because when you're doing it, you letting people know that's how you think.
Right.
It's your opinion. So nobody can argue with you because we all have a right to our opinion. You see, but when I get into a controversial discussion, I don't like to use opinion because that brings about a debate, and I want them to understand. I don't want you to think like me. I want you to go do like I did, go find it out, and then you're going to find out. You're going to think like me in the end if you go find out. I'm not going to tell you how I think. But in your case, what you do, you have to come from a perspective of a citizen, and you want to make sure that people take a look at things. So you're going to mention it, but at the same time, it's acceptable.
Right, and also...
and I do give my opinion sometimes, David.
And also, I like the discussion.
Hey, I do like you, though. I tell them, it's just my opinion.
Right. Hey, and sometimes I'll go against what I really believe. I just want to bring the discussion out, to get the information flowing. That's my whole thing of it when I like to do stuff. Yeah, you don't half the time. I know people not going to like my opinion, but I throw it out there. Okay, I just want to see if you can make a good argument against it. It may be something I need to adjust on my beliefs.
There you go.
Vice versa. It's to get a better understanding. It may be something I don't understand. If I'm arguing with you, can probably tell me, And then, hey, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I need to, put that
Yeah,
in my repertoire.
there you go. So, that's a good approach too. And, like you said, and I'm a firm believer in it. A lot of times, if you give people enough information to spark their ability to check it out and research, they will, and then they'll come back and they'll tell you something. They say, okay, then, and that's the easy way without having to go run it down, really.
Right. Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know, okay, then. Oh, man. All right, Dave, I had a good time, too.
Hey, I sure appreciate everything. I sure
All right,
appreciate your
brother.
insights on everything. This
Anytime,
is good information for the citizens.
anytime I could get any information out to the citizens that they could go and check, I am more than glad to and stuff. But I just don't like citizens to be misinformed.
Right, and a lot of citizens like the last one what you did about the taxes. They with the property taxes. Yeah, they really like
Yeah.
that one a lot. So yeah, that was a good
Well,
one.
I told you, if you explain to people in a manner in which they can understand in layman terms, people gonna understand it. But when you're talking above their head and trying to, you're doing it so that they don't understand. So you
Right.
have to present things so that everyone can understand what you're saying and be able to go and look and verify. Then they'll know. And I got a lot of faith in people if people are correctly informed. We just have so many people that are misinformed and easily influenced and misled. And I think that's created our problem here in the city. And
Yeah.
hopefully people will start reversing that trend by getting correct information, being
Right.
more informed. And I think it's podcasts like you do and stuff, whether it's controversy or not, there's information
Right.
flowing, the groups in Port Acres,
Yeah.
some things you agree with, some things you may, but
Yeah. Absolutely.
everything they say is all information and people have the right to know it and they will decipher what's right and what's wrong.
Oh,
in the
absolutely.
end.
Absolutely.
Okay, D. Have
Yes,
a good
sir.
one, brother.
Appreciate it. Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yes, sir. That was Mr. Doucet. I sure do appreciate him coming on the PA Political Revolution podcast and giving us a lot of his insight on what's going on. As a former council member and as a former EDC member, he always has some good information and comes from a good perspective, articulate. He comes from the a black and white person, likes to read the policy and likes to go, by the letter of the law. And that's what most of the council members should try to strive for, is going by the letter of the law, right? Now I did want to go in and jump into some more of the controversial type of subjects, right? Because I know Mr. Doucet is not that type of controversial person. I am. So, and more of the shock jock type of style. That's what I like to bring out. So, I'm going to go ahead and put the issue out. Going jumping back on the this EDC issue with Mr. Roosevelt Petrie, right? Now I want everybody to kind of keep an eye out on this new business he has, right? Spindletop Concrete. Now, it's a funny coincidence, right? He has this new type of business, concrete. He has some other people that supposedly be business partners with him and whatnot. Now it's funny that he's been appointed to the EDC by Frank. Frank also from day one wanted to disrupt the EDC. That was the number one thing that he did, right? First or second meeting, wanting to go ahead and disrupt, tear down the EDC to change it from a type A to type B. Now, Mr. Peach is on the board. Now, this last meeting, straight went ham, went hard as a mofo on the board, right? Disrupting everything. Just getting all in Mr. Baptiste's ear, just giving him all kinds of problems on everything. About people wanting to have some type of business. He just giving them all types of problems, right? Now, and towards the end of that meeting, right, Mr. Baptiste wanted to rescind his resignation. He felt that he wanted to stay a lot longer, right? A little bit longer. So in case if like what Mr. Bortia said, he's not trying to fire anybody and anything like, and if you're not trying to push them out, why wouldn't y'all let the people why wouldn't y'all let the EDC director stay a little bit longer? What do you have to lose? People, when you look at this stuff, a lot of these things aren't making sense. You have to look at it for what it is, man. I believe these jokers are crooks, man. These jokers are crooks trying to misappropriate this EDC money, right? Now, It's my opinion, right, that the EDC, right, main primarily responsibility is for economic development. Everything that the Type A business was, the Type A designation was designed to be. Everything about job training, businesses, you name it. But now what they want to do, again, change it to a Type B, what kind of goes through city projects. Right now, I don't believe that the Economic Development Center should be building roads, should be doing drainage, but they have, right? This has been a long-term process of trying to take money from the EDC, right, and to use it for the city's coffers. In the meanwhile, which this should be focused on, what they're doing right now is training these citizens, right? Training the citizens, like for the CDL drivers. You have certain training that they're doing for the construction certification. All of these things is what's needed in this city, right? We have a high poverty rate, we have a high unemployment rate, so training naturally would be the best thing to go to try to get this city up and moving in the right direction. But you have these idiots. You have Donald Frank, you have Barty, you have Petrie over there trying to get what he want to get out of there, right? So you have these dummies and a businessman who wants to get things, done his way. Going in and in doing that, putting this city's economics in danger. Citizen, you really don't know the problems that this brings. And I'm speaking straight of economic. My primary thing in this city is economics. That's my main thing. Get people jobs, get people money to start businesses, getting people trained for actual jobs, right? Particularly refinery jobs, the jobs that can make money. So anything that's a danger that, that's on my personal radar, right? And it should be on everybody's radar. When you got these two nuts, pastor and the other pastor, right? These two self-proclaimed pastors want to go ahead and muck everything up, right? So citizens, you have to be aware of this, right? That's my personal feelings on that. But heck, if you look at the doggone evidence, you should be able to come up with something similar. And heck, if you think changing the EDC to a Type B would help the citizens, you should be able to explain that. It's taking the voting process out of it, right? So if I want to do Type B stuff, it doesn't have to go to a vote for the citizens. It is less strenuous on the money. So, and the main thing you need to understand, man, we need to make sure that these politicians are spending our money right. You can't say that you want a politician to spend your money right and to be a good steward of your money, and you want to take away the Type A EDC. Now, the other topic, you have a lot of fake. Just be aware of these little fake political groups, fake political pages. These people are like plants. You have some that's affiliated with the school board, some affiliated with council members. It's crazy. You have one of these guys, right, that runs around and claim that, they're doing a lot of they're telling the truth on a lot of stuff. They bring it real, right? But then you have one of these a guy on there that has a stage interview with doggone Frank. These guys, you have to understand, the new wave now is to try to act like a rebel. Try to act like you going against the grain. Doing things that I was doing, but that they try to switch it up on you. They try to act like calling out the council members, calling out Frank. Now you have to understand, right? You have a couple of spots that give controlled chaos, so to speak, right? These are controlled. They want to look like hostile interviews. So you'll have a joke on there shaking his head when Frank coming up. Oh, Frank, how you this and that? But then they're going to start talking about Frank's doggone campaign plan about some damn Pleasure Island or some shit. Some trash about getting a Kemah Park. Oh, man, look, all this stuff has been done. They tried to do this with the casino. Man, look, it's already been done by people that can really develop this. The Hayes family, you had Boss Hogg in his prime of influence. You had other people getting all these developers from out of town to come down here and try to make this happen, right? Just like I said, downtown, they already said this 20 years ago. Couldn't get it to couldn't get it as far as a business district, right? As far as a shopping district, because you have all the shops going up north. You have some on 365 right now, Stonegate area, and you have another push going over to the Neyland Landing Plane Airport. That little thing they looking for developing that in sometime in the future. So you have everything going northward. You have the downtown landlocked by the seawall. So nothing going on over here. You don't have a pool. You don't have a major pool to get anything on the Pleasure Island, right? The seawall, the casino, that was supposedly the thing that's going to get pushed, right? And the only thing why the seawall could work, because they were the ones that had enough money to go ahead and throw out there, right? So in case if something fails, they had the money to go in case if something fails, right? The biggest thing why people are not doing anything downtown on the seawall, because they are afraid to lose money. If it was an automatic money maker, they would do it, right? But the thing is, a lot of these things are not automatic, right? It's a large risk. It's a large risk in trying to get the thing down here where you don't have a lot of people and there's no motivation to come down here. That's why the real developers like the Hayes family, they couldn't get this done. But you have country-ass, fake-ass pastors just want to use the city's money, give this to a developer, so the developer doesn't have to take risk on building some bull crap ass Kemah Park or whatever the hell they're trying to build out here. Then they'll kick back the council members some money. But then hell, if it failed, hey, the city only lost the money, right? It wasn't developed. They didn't actually lose anything. So that's what you have, right? And if a city wants to do something, help out a business, you give them tax incentives. You don't actually give them actual cash. That's one of the dumbest things that are around here. And you have these backward ass clowns that have no idea of doing business, city business, want to goddamn run this shit into the ground. And that's a fact. And then citizens have to put it on you. How in the hell you can see these line pastors doing this stuff, right? But then you go to them for your doggone spiritual salvation when they can't even make strong decisions for the city. These clowns, they can't even take care of their own personal goddamn lives, right? You got one pastor cheating on this goddamn wife. Heck, how in the hell if you going to a pastor for your eternal salvation and he didn't cheat on his goddamn wife? Now, come on. If a pastor don't have control of his loins, how in the hell can you believe he's going to take you to that next level spiritually, right? You have another pastor get kicked out of goddamn church, and you have one get kicked out of the doggone JP for doing all kinds of crazy illegal stuff. How in the hell can you really let them control your city once you know they can't make them right? You know they hungry for power. You know they losing their goddamn mind. I mean, people, you need to put this out there. You need to understand this, man. We have clowns that's on council right now. And then you have 3 goddamn council members that with 2 others that are new. They don't know what the hell to do. They scared to say anything. Just like I said before, you got 3 council members, 3 totally, that's on there, that's been on the EDC board. You have Marks, you have Moses, and you have the other young lady just got over there for District 1. I can't think of her name right now. But Holmes. You have them. They should be out there front saying this, man. You should be out there front speaking on why this is a bad idea. But they're like little puppets. They're like little children on the council. Just little children just scared to do anything. And that's what I hate about these representatives. They don't have no heart. They're like the cowardly lion. And that's one thing I just can't stand, a goddamn coward council member. We elect you over there to fight for the citizens. We didn't elect you to be a doggone coward. So, man, that's what gets me. That's what's frustrating to me, man. So, citizens, you need to be out there with me, fighting these cowards, fighting these clowns. But back to what I was saying. Yeah, you have these fake political things. So just understand when you listen to these people that want to acting like they are advocates for the city. If they 1 minute they cool with Parker, 1 minute they hate Parker, they cool with him, or Parker, then they hate him again. So you gotta understand the trends. These people are never constant. They just say anything that comes to their mind, right? You have another one that's associated with the school board. They censor the hell out of you. If these political groups need not to be censored, right? Mine, I don't try to censor mine or whatnot. You know, my decision, it's not censored. So I try to let everybody say everything as much as possible, as long as I don't kind of, put the group in harm. It's cool with me. Hell, sometimes even if it does put the group in harm, it's kind of cool. So just understand, man. Just understand when you have a political page that wants to curb the way you think, don't want to let your voice be heard. If they're always flagging your doggone comments, you gotta understand these are compromised political platforms, right? Compromise. Now the people that's giving you the truth, like me, I'm mostly self-made on here. You have some council members like Doucet, Bay Lewis, so some others may come on here and give you some good information. John Beard, they'll come on here and give you some good information and whatnot. But the ones that are high profile, that are just getting out there, those it's like the media. It's like they're paid to go to a certain narrative, or if they may be paid or may not be paid. But a lot of them go to a certain narrative. They work with the school district, they work with the city, so they have a rein on they have a leash on them though. So you can't really say anything to go against their narrative. So, just watch out for these paid oppositions. You need more people like myself that's unapologetic, that's giving it to you how it is. And that's basically it, man. I appreciate everybody for listening to this latest episode of the PA Political Revolution podcast, where we believe that in order to change things, you have to have a revolutionary mindset to go along to get along, gang, as Kwame Brown like to say it. But you need to have a revolutionary mind to kind of change some of the way the things going on. And with that, everybody take it easy. Peace until another day, another time. Thank you.